This is a short presentation about the profile. A profile uses narrative means as well as research to create a deeper understanding of a public figure. A profile is a kind of portrait. As a genre of writing, it seeks to create a picture of a person, but it uses narrative strategies to do so, such as creating small scenes and anecdotes, or dialogue and description. Interestingly, in order for a profile to create something of a faithful portrait of the subject, the writer must also do research, looking for interviews, reports of the subject's words, actions, and background, images, and the like. So the profile creates a picture of a person using story and research to help the reader develop an understanding of the profile's subject. Now, what kind of work do profiles do? We understand that reports, for instance, offer us information, often information that we need or at least that we can use. What do profiles do? If we look at profiles of famous people, celebrities and entertainers, and sports figures and politicians, it's hard sometimes to tell what exactly the function of a profile is, except perhaps to divert and entertain. The genre theorist Charles Bazerman gives us a hint when he talks about science and scientists using Thomas Edison, the inventor, as an example. He says that science gets into broader public spheres because journalists read certain scientific journals or looking for findings that they can turn into news stories, or because university public relations offices identify accomplishments with publicity value, and so on. Edison, however, understood better than his competitors that the project of developing a system of electricity and power required the enlistment of many groups of people. Edison needed to create presence, meaning, and value for electric light and power within their respective discursive systems. He understood, because he had had the experience of being a newsboy as a child, of having been a freelance electrical inventor. He was a patent holder and a contractor to telephone and telegraph industrialists, and he was also already a news celebrity following the invention of the phonograph. And all of that experience prepared him to translate the meanings of his proposed electricity project to seek support. So since he understood that, and that those things were creating a new kind of public forum, he saw the importance celebrity interviews and feature stories were taking to sell newspapers, and he soon learned to become a good interview subject so that he could publicize his new ventures. Now we can see this same general dynamic with public figures who are associated with some important social justice activity or movement. They are interested in having people write about them because they believe the interest a profile generates might also develop interest in the social justice cause or movement and clarity about it. Similarly, writers who are trying to get people interested in a social justice cause or movement to begin with will often write profiles of people who exemplify the cause, people who are part of a particular struggle, or people who have emerged from that struggle to become leaders, hoping to improve things. Nicholas Kristof, the New York Times journalist, often does this as he writes about women, poverty, and change. Now let's take the example that I gave earlier about the kind of memoir that I might write if I wanted to write about voting rights. Some of you may be aware that the Supreme Court recently struck down certain provisions of the Voting Rights Act, that storied piece of civil rights legislation from the 1960s. The occasion of the Supreme Court decision might be my rhetorical opportunity. I might look around for people who are also trying to use this occasion to do some work on voting rights. In fact, as I looked around, I found several figures from a couple of different organizations. I might ask myself, will either of these people be compelling to my readers? And is there enough information? I did a little preliminary research. Yes, I think I could find an interesting angle on several figures, and there's certainly enough information available. These figures are researchable. So then as I began to research and draft my profile, I would look for descriptive details, details that would help my reader understand how my subject looks, sounds, and acts. I would also look for images of the subject. I would look for as much direct language from my subject as possible so that my reader could get a sense of how the subject speaks, but also what the subject thinks and what perspectives she or he holds. I would try very hard to find other writers' pieces on my subject so that I could have a sense of how my subject is viewed by others. Finally, I would want to ask myself at several points, how will my readers use my profile? What do I want this piece to mean to my reader? Am I trying to create a stronger sense of connection with this person for my reader that will in turn lead to a stronger connection with bigger ideas, a movement, a provocative idea from that movement? How can I make this person compelling to my reader? How can I help my reader see the connection between the subject of my profile and my social justice issue? Now remember, Profiles offer readers a new way to see a subject through the lived experiences and perceptions of someone else. Remember to use all the available means to make the subject of your profile interesting, absorbing, and compelling. And remember, research is absolutely vital to profile writing.